is Anne, and I'm going to show you how I quilt and then paint a black border on some quilts. I'm going to show you a couple pictures where I've done this. One is a spiral design, that's what we're going to do today, and the other is just painting off from the landscape design. I will show you just really quickly a little bit of quilting that I did with these stars. I cut out construction, contact paper and made the stars, and that's just to help me out because this is free motion, but I need a little design, a little help sometimes. So I put the contact paper down and stitched around the stars. I'll show you that in a little bit of this, a little clip. So to do the border, I've taken and stitched along a little less than 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch or so, just to hold down the edge of my border here for the next step, which is to do the little, they're swirls, but they're square. Spirals, I guess people would call them. So I measured this and it's 16 inches, and that's inside my 1/4 inch about seam allowance that I'm going to have on the edge of this. And since it's 16 inches, I know that the middle point is 8 inches, and I'm marking that right here. And this is sort of the design, this is just fast and dirty design that we're going to do. So I know I want to start with my first spiral square on one side or the other of that line. And then if I do them about an inch, it should come out even at the end. It's not that big a deal if you have to squish them or stretch them to make them fit. It's going to be just fine in the end, really. Once the paint hits them, they're going to be pretty and it won't matter. So I will start at that point, and I'm not quite sure which direction I want to go. And so the idea is to get a 1 inch, because this will be 2 inches wide, a 1 inch square, 2 rows, 2 columns, 2 rows. So that's what I'm going to do, and I won't make you watch this whole thing. I'll just start to do a few, and we'll see how it goes. Put my needle down and pull my bobbin thread up. And I'm going to just do one. Want to leave yourself enough space. And then I quilted on the border here, and when I got finished I realized that because it's black on black you absolutely could not see it. You can kind of see it here. So I will show you a little clip of me quilting this on white fabric so that you can see it. And I'll show you the back here. It's messy, nothing's perfect, I don't mark it, it's just for fun, and it will be fine for the painting, and that's what we're going to do next. And we'll be on the design table to paint. Okay, you could do this on other colors, it's just really striking, I think, on the black. Some people paint and then quilt on top of it. Some people will quilt like this and then use a paintbrush and paint in the little design of the quilting. This is a simple way to do it, and I think it's more fun. A couple things you're going to want to do, or at least in my opinion, I cover my top because I'm kind of good at splattering paint, and I don't especially want paint splattered on here, although it would be okay. So this is just a piece of wax type paper. This is the deli paper that comes in sheets already cut off, but you could use anything that's a little waterproof. And I cut out some blue tape, and I'm going to just lay it right along, I'll put this so you can see, right along the edge, and this is just to keep the paint off of my center part of my quilt. So I'll just do that really quick around the edges. And I pre-cut these and measured, so hopefully they're fine. If they're not, I'll cut them off a little bit more. That's not quite straight. You could just use the tape and not worry about the paper on the inside. But like I said, I'm a splatterer, so, and as much as I love splatters, I don't really want them on this. This is actually, I'm calling it a quilt, and it is quilt, but I'm going to turn it into a pillowcase cover. Excuse me. For someone else, I'm not that keen on Western designs. The quilt itself was a embroidery piece that I entered into the San Diego Quilt Show a while back. So once I have that covered, my center's all covered and safe, and I don't have to worry about the paint getting on it. I'm going to use metallic paints. These are Lumiere from Jacquard. You can use regular craft metallic if you like, but I just love these Jacquard. They're just really nice, creamy, beautiful paint. I have something I'm just using as a palette. It's just a recyclable container. And it'll stick to get my paint out. And for this, I'm going to use foam brushes. They're dry. I could use this 2-inch. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet. If I want to use this, I'll maybe see how it goes. I'm going to start with a smaller one. And I have some little spritz of water for my paper towels in case I get too messy. So I'm just going to take a little bit of the paint. Let me scoot this. There we go. And I'm going to put it on my, I'm going to try to open it. There we go. I'm going to put it on my so-called palette here, my little container. And it doesn't take very much. Start with a little bit and see how it goes for you. We're just going to how can I describe it? Just gently dust it over the top. You could do all one color, you could do several colors. I'm going to just start with gold and turquoise today. And I'm going to try my little brush first. And one thing that I have done, and you could certainly do this, is taken the paint, put it on half of the foam and then the other color on the other half. But today I'm going to do all one color to begin with, and this probably isn't enough. Just kind of load it up on the point of your brush, foam brush, and I'm going to just drag it across. Let's see, you can go any old way you want, really. Drag it across, and I obviously am going to need a little bit more because things are very dry here today, and I'm going to just load that up. I don't want to stick it in my container. That's not a good deal. And at first it's looking just sort of silvery blue instead of turquoise. The heavier you put it on, I don't want to push down in there a little too hard right there in my opinion. I want my quilting lines to not get hit with the paint if I can avoid it. So the trick is to kind of experiment and see how much pressure you need to put on it so that it covers the top part, the raised part, and shows that design without going down in there. And because if you color the quilt lines too, your design is kind of not there. It won't show, and it's sort of pointless to have done it, right? So you can see the difference. Now you can see that design coming up a little bit. So I'll go ahead and do this color all the way around, and then we'll try some gold. That streak is from turning my brush at a pointy angle, and I'm okay with that. If you aren't, you can kind of blend it out. Just keep working that color onto the top of the the top of the design and maybe not have as much. That's really what I do with the second, not as much paint on it is what I was saying. That's really what I do with the second color when I bring another color into this. And you can tell now, I think you should be able to tell that my designs aren't showing so much in that the paint is bringing them up, and so I see the design, but I'm not really thinking too much about the quilting actually. So it doesn't matter if you haven't ever done this kind of quilting before. If you're new at it, if you don't want to measure and you just want to have fun and get things moving, then it doesn't matter how sloppy it is. When I show you the back of this, when it's dry, if I remember to do that for this video, I'll show you the back, and you will see my square spirals here are going every which direction. So I just knew that once I put the paint on them, it's not going to matter if they're going every which different direction. It's still going to give you more depth and layers, and it's going to be beautiful. And that's the way I feel about it, and that's pretty much what I think it's turning out to be. So you can see how quickly it can go too. So good idea to just try and experiment with your foam brush. If you've used them a lot, it might be easier for you. Otherwise, just give it a couple chances of how much paint, get a feel for how much paint you want to use and how blue you want it, or whatever color, how dark you want it in that color. Once it's dry, it's dry. There's no moving it. But if you put another color on this while it's wet, it can blend it a little. You can end up with mushy kind of color. The fabric soaks it in better than, differently, I should say, than paper. So whether or not the paints will blend or stay separate is sort of just, again, a thing you have to experiment with. I see this line that's happening here, and it's sort of bugging me, so I'm going to kind of see if I can move it, just make it a little less noticeable there. In the end, it's not going to matter. So I could let this dry, I could do another coat on top of it and make it a little heavier, a little stronger of the turquoisey color, but I'm going to just leave it for now. So, and I should have another, I want a dry brush, so I can't just go clean this. So I'm going to go ahead and use my wider brush because I didn't grab another skinny one right now, a little narrow one. And I'm going to put this into the gold. Again, just on the tip. And for this, I might do that streaky thing. I could, not really sure. Might go good with the stars and the kind of western to have it be a little bit spurry, streaky. But I think I'm going to just drag it through a few places. Just a little bit, kind of a little accent. Just to give it a little more pizzazz. A little more something to look at. There's kind of a line. If you do one, you might want to do a few more so that it looks like you meant to do it. I meant to do that. Whoops, I'm knocking things off my table. So you can see how easy, and that black border is transformed just that easily. You can use as many colors as you want, but remember, if they're all wet at the same time, you might end up with some mush going on, and probably don't really want that because it sort of defeats the whole idea. If it just turns into a solid color, you might as well have left it black. So and I'm going to, most of the time I would say, don't touch anything until it's dry, but I'm going to be brave and just move this off of here so that we can look at that. And this is looking kind of green on my screen, so this is really turquoise. It's not this green. So I hope you can see the iridescent, the metallic of that, and what a pretty border it is on this quilt, what will be a pillow top. So I hope you found this fun and interesting, and we'll give it a try. I really appreciate you being here. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, I hope that you will. Until next time, thanks a lot for being here.